Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Mayor Pro Tem Ashby.
Here.
Councilmember Laloe.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Valenzuela.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chenier.
Here.
Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Jennings.
Here.
Councilmember Vang.
Here.
And Mayor Steinberg.
I'm here. Thank you very much. Let's see. Who would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today? Amy Williams, who does such great work for our city, always in an unsung way. Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Amy?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Everyone, please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United
States of America,
and to the republic,
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Amy, to surprise you.
That's quite all right. Nice to see everyone today.
Yes, thank you. We just want to thank you for the great job you do. All right, members, today we are going to deal with the Police Review Commission's recommendations, and we want to begin with item 1, which is an update on our use of force policy recommendations. I know I have some comments, but I'm going to hold off because I want to hear the staff presentation and want to hear the testimony from members of the public. Who is presenting today for the city? Anybody who is presenting? Is it Chief Lester? Is it Chief Hahn? Is it City Manager? Is it?
Mr. Mayor, this is
the staff report is filed under Dr. Watson. That's helpful.
It is under. Okay, it is filed under.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I couldn't get my video on my mute fast enough.
That's okay, Aaron.
Yeah, this is an item that's going to be coming forward through OPSA. But the presentation will be from the police department on the use of force update and the recommendations. But the language itself, I believe, is going to come from Dr. Watson, I believe.
Okay, Dr. Watson, are you on the call? Well, I mean,
Mayor, I'm on the call. This is Dr. Watson.
Go ahead, Dr. Watson. Do you want to just summarize the staff recommendation that is before us today, please?
Mayor, are you speaking in reference to the use of force?
I'm talking about the use of force policy. Yes, I am.
Okay, so OPSA has provided this item in reference to your resolution has been rescinded, and the initial language from the police commission being presented to council to actually vote or discuss and accept that.
Okay, thank you. I think you just said the procedural context, and we all remember this vividly, those of us who participated. But let me turn it over to Chief Lester then for a moment, if she is representing the police department, and ask her whether or not the police department is recommending the commission's use of force recommendations for council action today. Because as we know, just to summarize, the council approved on an 8-1 vote, May the 4th, a use of force recommendation that included the term last resort, that was based on language that I drafted together with a lengthy memorandum that explained the language. Both the language and the memo were part of the resolution and part of the motion. There has been some significant conversation since then, both private and now public, about making a different recommendation. And the different recommendation is the commission's recommendation, which is the so-called San Francisco language. And so that's fine. That's where we're at here procedurally. Obviously, the commission, Mr. Guerrero, I know is okay with that because it's the commission's recommendation. So what I want to ask the police department leadership is whether or not it is okay with that language.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. This is Deputy Chief Kathy Lester, and yes, absolutely, we are in support of the Commission's recommended language.
Okay, thank you. So that is where let's consider that the staff presentation, unless staff wants to add anything else. Is there public testimony on the item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have 11 callers on this item.
Let's hear from the 11 callers.
Thank you. May I have my first caller, please? Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Yes, my name is Sequita Thompson with Blair Child Association. I'm again asking your support on our call to action and share broadly the specific attached information submitted for your review. We need to continue to pressing the City Council to adopt the AB 392 as the minimum standard and the higher use of force standard to comply with state law and best practices, as modeled by San Francisco at the May 10th, 2021 meeting. The Sacramento Police Department stated that they would incorporate AB 392 into its use of force policy as a courtesy to the community. That is not good enough. The mayor and the city council must take responsibility for ensuring that the city complies with the public policy like AB 392. As of this writing, the city shall still. Can you hear me? Oh God. I went out. I think I got cut off. As of this writing, the city still has not complied with AB 392 or SB 230, which requires that officers are trained to use deadly force. As of recently reported count matters. As of this month, the city has not trained a single officer on the use of deadly force, even though they were required to do so by January the 1st, 2021, and state funding was available to do so. They were required to comply with the AB 392 as of January the 1st, 2020, but still haven't. These are state laws. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sequita Thompson.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Good afternoon. My name is Marshall Arnewine. I work for the ACLU of Northern California in our Sacramento office. I serve in the role of criminal justice advocate, specializing in police practices for our legal policy department. First, we support the Police Review Commission's original use of force policy, submitted on April 13th. It's the ACLU's position that the Commission's last resort language can help provide more clarity on when deadly force can be used. Last resort language can also make SACPD's use of force policy stronger to hold officers accountable. However, it is not our position that the last resort language is a legally higher standard than Assembly Bill 392 in court. In the court of law, both civil and criminal, the jury instructions use language from AB 392 to instruct the jury for a particular charge. Because of that, it is our position that SACPD needs both verbatim language from AB 392 implemented into its policy and the adoption of the Commission's last resort language. Having both will work in unison to make accountability both practical and policy in the court of law. Sac PD did deliver a verbal commitment on May 10th to the Commission that SPD is in the process of including verbatim language of AB 392. While the commitment verbally is appreciated, history shows that the Sacramento community cannot truly know there's movement toward accountability until the verbatim language is in writing. AB 392 went into effect on January 1st, 2020, and history shows that since that law went into effect, SPD had at least 4 opportunities to become a champion of change and include verbatim language of AB 392, but have failed to do so. On June 8, 2020, September 14, 2020, September 17, 2020, and May 20, 2021, there was at least 4 revisions that took place for the general order, and all 4 of those failed to include verbatim language. City Council, it is ultimately up to you to provide direction to the city manager on adopting.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
In conclusion, ACLU supports the last resort language, but at minimum, SPD must comply with AB 392 verbatim.
Thank you for your
time and
comments.
consideration.
Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, thank you, Council. My name is Talitha Floyd, and I'm calling on behalf of Sacramento Acts, District 3. I urge you, City Council, at this time to implement our resolution. It is time for Sacramento County to stand up, and we ask the Council to do that and hold Sac PD accountable at this time. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Steinberg and council members. My name is Daisy Beeman. It is time to act to protect the Sacramento community and its peace officers. Your decisions impact us today. I urge the City Council to adopt and implement a resolution to incorporate in its use of deadly force policy to include AB 392, the Stephon Clark Law, explicitly and verbatim as the city's minimum use of deadly force standard, and the Commission's original recommended language of last resort as the higher use of deadly force standard. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jolie Tarazis. I reside in Councilmember Chenier's district. I want to first acknowledge that I'm calling on Nisenan Native American tribal land, among other tribal nations, which you could learn more about from the Sacramento Native American Health Center website. I'm calling to urge the City Council today to support AB 392. To make this a little bit interactive, I invite the council members and everyone who's listening to raise your hand if you know how many Sacramento police officers have been trained in use of deadly force. So if you're raising your hand that you know, now show with your hands how many officers have been trained in use of deadly force. So I'm just on the phone. I can't see you all. But if you know, according to recent reporting, that number is 0. 0 police officers, 0 women and men who serve as police officers have been trained in use of deadly force per California state law, which was required to begin. This training was required to have taken place by January 1st, 2021. So this is essentially breaking the law. This seems to be setting up the women and men who serve as police officers for failure, putting them in a very difficult position. So I really urge the City Council to make sure that AB 392 is enacted. My mom is here. She agrees, and a lot of people who I know live in this district and other districts agree with me as well. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Begin now?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hi, my name's Jeanette Egan. I am from Council Member Guerrera's District 6, and I would like to urge the City Council to adopt and implement a resolution on its use of deadly force policy to include AB 392 verbatim as the city's minimum use of deadly force standard and the Commission's original recommended language of last resort as the higher use of deadly force standard. I am also calling with Showing Up for Racial Justice Sacramento. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
PJ, he, him, calling from unceded Nisenan land. I definitely recommend we come into compliance with state law. This is beyond due. I also recommend that you adopt a stricter use of force standard as recommended by the Police Commission. In addition, I recommend that you accept all recommendations by the Police Commission. We require a means for law enforcement accountability in instances of misconduct, and this is only one step. More is required. I'd actually love it if Commission's recommendations across the city were given the weight they deserve, given that they are our direct voice to ensure community are part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, my name is Kalima, and I am a community organizer with Sacramento Act, working with our Live Free committee. I am calling in support of the Police Review Commission's use of force recommendation, and I really want to emphasize how important this decision is. The City Council needs to adopt and implement the deadly use of force policy to include AB 392 verbatim, word for word, so as to be in full compliance with the foundation for the higher deadly use of force standards and SB 230 training. And the City Council must also demonstrate transparency in making sure that SACPD is complying with this law as per the companion training funding bill SB 230. The current use of force policy's vague language of perceived threat does not comply with AB 392. And need I remind you that the city was required to comply with AB 392 by January 1st of 2020, last year. These loopholes pave the way for further lives to be lost. While I'm glad to hear that this recommendation is on its way to be approved by council, I'm disheartened by how long it has taken for SACPD to be held accountable to this legislation. Legislation, mind you, that many of our constituents took time and energy to push forth. Considering AB 392 was deemed the Stephon Clark law, Sacramento should have been at the forefront of implementing this law. We should have been the first city prioritizing this implementation, not following in the footsteps of other cities. Please do the right thing and support the Police Reviews Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is El Jose Gordon. I am a local pastor here in the Sacramento community, and I also am on the SAC Act board as well. Today, I called in to urge the City Council to adapt the language as it was originally written in AB 392, the Stephon Clark law. I myself am a formal, I used to be a federal law enforcement police officer. When I joined the force, one of the first things of training that they sent us through was the basics and so forth, and that's what every law enforcement officer needs to know. To know that this has now been sitting dormant and not being implemented, it worries me, it bothers me. What else is not being implemented and not being put into effect? This right here, the original language that you drafted, I'm sure you had great minds at the table. I am certain that this wasn't done with crayons and construction paper. Some thought went into this, but it went into law. Let's go ahead and implement this thing and get it going. We don't need to adapt what San Francisco has. God bless them and their endeavors, but we're a different area. We have a different community, and we're trying to arrive at a certain level here of bringing things into compliance as far as with respect to the police officers. So again, thank you all for the great job that you've done with the original draft. But I say let's go with the original language verbatim, and let's see how it works. Give it an opportunity to fail. It's not going to fail. You want to know why? Because it was done in Sacramento. It's going to be implemented in Sacramento, and it's going to be a success. Thank you so much for your time. You guys have a great day.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, City Council. My name is Keon Bliss, and I am the Sacramento Police Community Police Review Commission's District 4 Commissioner, and I'm just calling to thank City Council for taking up our use of force recommendation policy, and would encourage you all to pass it as was originally introduced and was agreed upon by SAC-PD at our May 10th Commission meeting. I would also encourage, it also supports adding AB 392's language verbatim, as is also agreed by SAC-PD. This should be a simple measure, considering that we already made recommendations within that, which we will be discussing in the next item. But I would really encourage, too, to make sure that this is put into writing as well. I noticed that the SAC-PD use of force policy was updated just last week, but none of the mentions that they had agreed to within that voluntarily. So I just want to make sure, once this policy is passed, that that you include whatever is needed, AB 392 language to be included, whether it has to be in a resolution or whatnot. But yes, I just want to lift up and support the community in demanding that AB 392 is the floor, and our commission's recommendations are added on in addition. So thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate you taking this vote today.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello. I urge the City Council to adopt and implement a resolution on its use of deadly force policy to include AB 392, the Stephon Clark Law verbatim, as the city's minimum use of deadly force standard and the Commission's original recommended language of last resort as the higher use of deadly force standards. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hi, my name is Diane Cadessa. I'm here in the support of AB 392, and I would like to support on that, since it is important for us to change the policy and the legislation, so we don't have to march for the next 20, 30 years. And this is an important step to change on the policy. In that way, our kids and grandkids will be prevented from being shot, and then the police being protected from what they have done. So I really have a strong support for AB 392, and I hope the City Council members will vote for it. So in that way, we can change the policy and the legislation that we are fighting for every day, so our kids and grandkids can have a better life in the future without having to worry about the safety. And the mothers and the fathers don't have to worry about the kids' safety out there. So please, I really urge you to vote on it so this becomes a law. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for your comments. Next caller, please. And Mr. Mayor, I believe I have just one more caller.
Thank you.
Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, my name is Paula Lee. I'm the Advocacy Director for the League of Women Voters in Sacramento County, and I'm a resident of District 4. I'm calling to support the League of Women Voters Criminal Justice Committee's recommendations on the use of force policy. Our recommendations are in line with our state criminal justice position. And the League committee met with the mayor and most all of you council members on this issue, and we really want to thank you for those meetings. Many of you commented at the time that the committee was well educated on the issues and you appreciated their work and research on these serious issues. So I hope you'll be adopting what many of the callers today and other community groups and the ACLU are asking you to do, which is, I'll repeat it again, adopt a policy resolution on the use of deadly force to include AB 392 verbatim, and also the Police Commission's recommended original language on the last resort as the higher use of deadly force standard. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have no more callers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I choose to speak first here, and I have something to say, as we all do. And it's this. I have no pride of authorship with my previous compromise language in any way. I am thrilled that the department and the commission have come together to support the commission's original language. Let's move forward together. Thank you. Who's next? Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I want to thank you for what you did on May 4th. I know there were strong objections to the commission's original language, and you were trying to strike an agreement that at the time didn't have any objections from anybody. And so I'm really glad that we're back here as well. I really think that by passing that motion and giving us until June 1st, which is today, to implement, to give the commission time to get feedback, really let the process play out the way it should. Giving the commission a chance to give input, giving them a chance to talk to the department, giving them a chance to come back to us with something that we can vote on today, which is really exciting. And I hope the first of many actions to come. And I'm looking forward to supporting the change that's outlined in the staff report. But I do want to note that there were actually two changes recommended on that March 10th meeting. We had asked them to give us advice on deadly force as a last resort, and they said their original recommendation and verbatim language from AB 392, which as several callers have stated, the Sacramento Police Department has already said they're willing to commit to do, and which I think just is good policy as a council that we adopt these things so that they stay city policy and really provide clear direction to the department. So I'm not sure why AB 392, that reco wasn't included in the staff resort, because it was acted on in the same breadth and with the same intent as the use of force last resort language. So I would like to move this item with an amendment to add in the adoption of AB 392 verbatim to Sac Police Department policy. And thank you, Mayor, for the chance to speak.
I think that's appropriate. Thank you very much. I will take a second. If there's a second. Moved by Councilmember Guetta, I think it was. Thank you, Councilmember Vang. You can be the third. I see Mayor Pro Tem Ashby and Councilmember Guetta.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor. I echo my colleague, Councilmember Valenzuela's sentiment almost exactly. I want to thank you too for doing the hard work of putting together that memorandum. I think it helped build us to this point. And Councilmember Valenzuela, you crafted a nice motion last time around that gave this process an opportunity to build upon itself. And I think that we have come to a good spot. So I am ready to support this. And I actually like the addition. I think it's helpful to be clear. I think the thing we can do best for everyone, the police department, the community, ourselves, is make things as clear as possible. And our goal should be compliance with the state regulations that were so hard fought. And so this is, I think, a good day. Maybe we took a bit of an indirect route to get here. I want to thank the commission too. They took what we had, came back with a quick response. This is a quick turnaround. So I know Chair Guerrero's on here. Thank you to him and to everyone on that committee. I would like to just say, I don't want to dampen the moment at all here, but I would like to say that this staff report needs some work. It doesn't give us a direct recommendation, though I did hear the mayor sort of pull one out, I think, of staff that spoke here. But in general, I would like us to make sure that these staff reports are really clear, because council members have the benefit of talking to staff, but the general public does not. And if I was a member of the general public and I just read this very small attachment, which most of it is the mayor's memo from a few weeks ago, it doesn't really give a lot of clarity to people as to what we're adopting today. And I don't think, and you know, I mean, the spelling of the mayor's name is wrong. I mean, there's some things in here that really are not acceptable. So I want to bring it up because I want it to be fixed in the future. I want us to do better than this. I want our reports to be really clear so that the public can follow along and be proud of the progress their city is making as well. This is a hard fought place. The mayor pushed hard. Several council members have pushed hard. The commission has pushed hard. The police department has been a good partner. City management has been a good partner. Our city attorney has worked hard, and I want that to be reflected in the reports that we adopt. So I want to vote yes, and I wish the report better reflected where we actually are here and the progress we're making today.
Thank you, Councilmember Ashby. Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I wanted to, thank my colleague, Councilmember Valenzuela, and yourself for leading the process through here, and also Commissioner Chair and Commissioner Mario Guerrero here for his steadfast efforts trying to help us identify a best process forward. I also want to thank Commissioner and like to uplift some of the words and work that Commissioner Castillo Cringe has talked about building a better process for us to be able to move forward. And because this piecemeal process here is something that doesn't help us get the proper vetting. I really enjoyed the way that the commission had brought forth the matrix before that outlined the different recommendations and did some comparison, because that helps us, I think, in our dialogue with understanding the advice that the commission provides, the advice that the staff and department provide, and the benefits of other cities that have moved forward in this area. So maybe if I could ask a quick question here to Commissioner Guerrero about if the commission would work with, and if the department would be able to work to provide this matrix that kind of helps us look at these recommendations in the future, so we can have a better dialogue as we come to council here.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Guerra. And absolutely, the commission is ready and willing to work with the city and SACPD to make sure that you have the information in a way that's not just easily digestible to the council, but also to the public. I know that I kind of have a little bit of a concern with the material for today's meeting in terms of welcome having their matrix and kind of showing their response, which is great. We need that. We need, their perspective, which I've always welcomed. And I believe if you all, need also, for example, the, feedback from the city attorney's office, all of that is really good information. But I think that we can work on a better way forward. I envision, a matrix where you have each of the contributing departments, that you've asked for an opinion. They have their information side by side so that you have the information available to you in one document. The community has that same document available to them so they can see, the very thoughtful process that you all are engaging in, and that we as a commission and SACPD and as a whole are doing to make sure that we put forward the best possible recommendation. So I really appreciate that. And again, we are absolutely willing to work with you on that.
Great, thank you, Chair Commissioner Guerrero. Again, thank you, Councilmember Valenzuela and Mayor Steinberg in leading on this effort.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris, Jeff Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. Mario, what you just described is absolutely essential. We really do appreciate the Police Review Commission, and we need those responses from PD and from the City Attorney's Department to have the discussion that we should have, and we should have it regularly and in a timely way when you make recommendations to council. I totally support that and appreciate it. Councilmember Valenzuela, I appreciate your motion because I have felt that AB 392 should be adopted into the body, and so it's an important piece of this motion. And also the Police Commission's language containing not feasible, I think is very important and puts us in a really good place, and I'm in support. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. Chair Guerrero, you've had a chance to comment. I want to make sure your voice was heard as well. Thank you for your good work here, the Commission's work. Let's call the roll on the motion, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Ashby,
Yes.
Councilmember Laloe,
Aye.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Valenzuela,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Chenier,
Aye.
Councilmember Guerra,
Aye.
Councilmember Jennings,
Yes.
Councilmember Vang,
Yes.
and Mayor Steinberg.
Yes, that passes 9-0. Thank you. Let's move now to the last item on the agenda, which are the 2020 recommendations of the Commission. How are we intending to present this one?
Mr. Mayor, Kathy Lester here, Deputy Chief of Operations. I was going to do the presentation. You ready?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Gotcha. Hey, and I just want to say thank you. In full disclosure, I'm working remote and the Wi-Fi signal that I have is not great. So I'm going to have to keep my video off. I apologize. Just try and make the most out of the Wi-Fi signal that I do have. And then also joining me today are Dave Risley. He's the Deputy Chief that oversees investigations and training for the department, as well as Captain Ruby Chan, who oversees our professional standards unit and does a lot with our policy. So if for some reason I have a technical failure, they'll be able to jump in and cover me until I can get back on. So with that, I'll get started. We're here today to talk about the police department's response to the Commission's 2020 recommendations. These were the recommendations that were brought forward on April 13th. And representing the Commission at that meeting was our chair, Mr. Mario Guerrera. He presented those recommendations in a very detailed and very large report. And just kind of as a side note, this has been identified, I know, by some of our other council members. I think the matrix would be really helpful because I went through and pulled out recommendations. And so if I've missed any, or if any are incorrect, hopefully Mr. Guerrero can jump in. But we've gone through, tried to put them into a format that we can respond to, and I'll be going through those recommendations today. Also, some of these recommendations are specific to the police department and others are not. So we're not going to be speaking for other departments. And so while I will go through all of the recommendations that we've identified, I'll only be addressing the issues that pertain specifically to us. And in regards to those non-police items, I would just ask, Mayor and Council to request additional information from the appropriate city departments. And then what I do hope to demonstrate is that many of the recommendations made by the Commission have been implemented or in the process of being implemented. And so for the few that haven't, I'll be explaining those as well. There was a supplemental piece of information that came out and was sent to Council, and that is our matrix. And so I'll start with the first Commission recommendation, and that's that they have access to legal counsel independent of the city's attorney office. That's not applicable to SPD. It would require further input from other city departments. The next recommendation is that the Commission needs additional staff support, and we have the same response to that. It's not applicable to SPD and requires some other input from other city departments and offices. Moving on to the third recommendation, the Sacramento Police Department liaison should meet with the chair, the vice chair, OPSA staff to address requests and respond directly instead of having to use OPSA as an intermediary. What we would ask is that the city right now is currently following the standard practice for commissions to liaison with city staff. And right now that city staff is the OPSA office. In addition, SACPD, we regularly meet with the chair, the commissioners, the ad hoc groups to discuss items, answer questions, and provide additional information as needed. We also are given the opportunity to provide feedback at some of the normal meetings and outside the normal meeting schedule. But for formal requests for presentations or report backs, we really request that the Commission use the same standardized process as other boards, and then this council by directing their requests through the Commission's assigned staff. What that allows for is for formal tracking of the bigger requests. It allows us to properly prioritize those requests, and then we can manage the workload of our city staff to respond to the Commission. Moving on to recommendation 4. This is regarding the quorum issue. It says the city code states the quorum required for the commission to conduct business is 6 members. And they're recommending that council amend the code to allow that in the event of any vacancy or vacancies, the quorum be the majority of the members serving on the commission. Again, that's not our item for us to decide on, so it's not applicable to SAC PD. The next item is the inspector general position should be independent of OPSA supervision and should be granted subpoena power. And again, that's not applicable to us, requires further input from other city departments and offices, and of course with mayor and council. Next recommendation is the IG's investigation report to the commission should include, if requested, access to information available to the public pursuant to SB 1421. And right now, the commission and the inspector general currently have access to all the materials that are released per SB 1421. The next recommendation, to ensure transparency and accountability, the commission should be tasked to take the inspector general's findings before they are presented to the city council and make its own recommendations on officer discipline or termination. Again, not applicable to SPD. Recommendation number 8, the city council should adopt a process or policy that requires the body to vote on the recommendations received by the commission no later than 3 months from receipt. Again, also not an SPD item. Moving on to number 9, the commission should be given the authority to review and provide feedback to the police department, the mayor, council, before the adoption of any new general orders or updates to these dealing with body-worn cameras, foot pursuit, use of force, and discipline with the commission's past and current annual priorities, including body-worn cameras, foot pursuit, use of force, and discipline. So a couple of things here. This isn't really applicable to SPD. It will definitely require some other input from other city and departments and offices and would be at the discretion of mayor and council. Just as a side note, we regularly engage the commission for feedback and input on key policies, including our use of force policy, the body-worn camera policy, and foot pursuit policy. We have had commission members that have been active members of those committees that are tasked with updating the policies, and we have voluntarily adopted a number of recommendations made by the commission. Moving on to number 10, the recommendation is to require the police chief or his representative to meet with the commission at a minimum of once a year and prior to the submission of the annual report to the city council to provide feedback to the commission about its recommendations. And we have adopted that recommendation. The liaison, SAC PD liaison, meets throughout the year with the commission members outside of the regular meeting schedule. And just like we did this year, we've met with the commission and the ad hocs prior to as well as after the commission has adopted annual recommendations for council consideration. The next item, item 11, SAC PD should have a police liaison present at all of the commission monthly meetings to respond to questions and information requests. And currently, the liaison is typically present at the regularly scheduled meetings. However, in the event that a representative can't attend, any updates are provided to OPSA prior to the meeting, and then OPSA can forward requests for information to the department prior to the meeting so that we can respond to those. And then in addition, the commission does have access to us outside of the regularly scheduled meetings by email, by phone, as well as through OPSA. So we try and make ourselves available as much as possible to meet their needs. And then 12, once the recommendations are shared with the city council and SAC PD at the end of the year, SAC PD should report to the commission on the status of those recommendations. And so we regularly provide updates to the commission. I know in this, in the last item, we talked about the May 10th meeting where we reported back on our adoption of the language of AB 392. And so those are the types of updates that we do provide. And so we're currently already doing that, but ultimately the commission reports to mayor and council. The police department serves at the discretion of the city manager. So it's really up to the commission to make those recommendations directly to city council, and then the city manager's office will receive direction from the city council. So moving on to the discipline and accountability ad hoc recommendations. There was an external jurisdiction recommendation, which recommends that mayor and council support legislative efforts to strengthen police accountability in the following areas. For the federal side of things, support the removal of peace officer qualified immunity, and for the state, sponsor legislative efforts to allow the state to decertify a peace officer for excessive use of force or other misconduct. Again, that's not within our purview. It would require further input from other city departments and offices as well. On hiring, the commission recommends, and this is item 14, Commission recommends that SACPD explicitly incorporate these following items into its general orders. And if you look at the matrix, these will be items 15 through 21. So currently our general order is being revised. However, when we conduct backgrounds, we are a post agency and we're required to not only comply with post guidelines, but post also conducts regular audits of our backgrounds to ensure that we are complying with the state guidelines. So I'll start with the first recommendation, which is 15. To include local criminal history record, statewide criminal history record, and out-of-state criminal history. This is the department's current practice in accordance with post guidelines. We not only conduct criminal history checks locally and statewide and nationwide, the queries don't just seek out convictions, they also reveal any arrest of applicants, even if they weren't convicted. And then in addition, we also ask applicants if they've ever been convicted of any criminal act, even if it was expunged. We also ask about the number of times candidates were detained, charged, arrested for any reason, even if it occurred in a different country. And then furthermore, applicants are asked about criminal acts they committed, even if they were never caught or prosecuted. So it's fairly extensive. The next recommendation was to review the applicant's social media, including but not limited to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, any other social media websites or platforms for conduct that would cause discredit to the department, the city, or harm the public's image of law enforcement. And that is currently our current practice, also in accordance with post guidelines. We do an in-depth analysis of all social media accounts, those that are active as well as those that have been closed. Specifically, we are looking to see if the candidate has or is demonstrating any bias-related behaviors or supporting or expressing beliefs that would bring discredit to the city and the department. Additionally, once candidates are hired, our department mandates that all employees comply with our general and professional conduct order, which states that you cannot commit any act, whether negligent, intentional, criminal, or otherwise, that could bring discredit upon the department or the city. And then civil service rules, Rule 12 also applies to that. The next recommendation, 17, is that we amend the hiring policy to reflect that it's a bona fide occupational qualification for all applicants to be investigated and found clear for any conduct involving association with hate groups, violence, or speech, espousing hate towards any race, color, religion, national origin, creed, immigration, or citizenship status, sex, sexual orientation, gender identification, or disability. And again, this is in fact the department's current practice. The information is included as part of the background in accordance with the post guidelines. We ask all applicants if somebody might report they've been shown prejudice or if they've shown bias, as well as if they have any association or membership with any groups that demonstrate bias or hate. We also require that candidates respond to a number of questions to identify whether or not they are a current or former member of, associate with, or support any group that has negative associations with others based solely on race, gender, nationality, religious sexuality, or any other similar factors. And then we conduct multiple personal and professional interviews of references, including friends, family, acquaintances, current and former coworkers and supervisors. And then we further verify that information through a polygraph exam. If any admissions or accusations from others are found, they're flagged and they're reported directly to the background division, all the way through the personnel captain and ultimately to the chief of police. The next recommendation was to identify and reject applicants for hire or lateral transfer if background investigation or the personnel file revealed any gross use of force or pattern and practice of use of force. And then SACPD must obtain this information before we hire them. And again, that is the current practice in accordance with guidelines. All applicants are interviewed to identify any violent tendencies, predispositions, or impulse control issues. They have to report if they've ever been in violation of a work policy, if they've ever had any discipline at work, which would apply to any lateral officer who had exhibited a gross or use of force. All applicants are also asked if they've ever been in a physical altercation or a hostile confrontation at work. Other work-related questions include whether or not they have ever had a complaint made against them, if they ever left a job and were being fired, or if they ever caused an injury to someone at work due to improper behavior. And then lastly, we do review all internal affairs, training, and personnel files for all lateral candidates. And again, any of these allegations are brought forward to the chief of police before hiring. If they are even hired really at that point, but that happens before the hiring decision is made. And then 19 is that we will reject applicants for hire or lateral transfer who have civil judgments or criminal convictions for excessive use of force. And again, this is the department's current practice. We seek out court documents or information related to civil judgment of any kind, as well as criminal charges. All of these are notated in the background brought to the attention, again, of the backgrounds division, the personnel captain, and the chief of police. And then 20, reject applicants for hire or lateral transfer if background investigation reveals deceit or dishonesty, violence or battery, and sustained finding of racial animus, including but not limited to hate crimes. And again, this is the department's current practice. If a person's been convicted of any violent felonious crime, they're ineligible to be a peace officer and would not be hired as such. And then additionally, in California, a conviction for domestic violence would also prohibit one from carrying a firearm. Hence, one would also be prohibited from being a peace officer. And then if an applicant has demonstrated or is accused of demonstrating any of these behaviors, the information is brought to the attention of the background division, personnel captain, and all the way through to the chief of police. And then, so those were the hiring recommendations, and we'll move on to the education recommendation, which was to require peace officers to obtain a 4-year college degree within 6 years after joining the department. Additionally, continue to offer financial support to officers obtaining a degree and looking to offering additional financial support. You know, we absolutely, as a department, support officers seeking higher levels of education. We already require 60 college units to become an officer for most candidates. The only exception to that are some of our military applicants that have a certain number of years in the military. But many of our new hires already have 4-year degrees when they come to the department. Currently, 73% of our sworn officers hold a bachelor's degree or higher. So while we definitely support this recommendation, it would require contractual change to the labor agreement, and there may be a significant cost to the city. Moving on to some of the discipline recommendations. The first one is item 22, and it says to adopt a zero tolerance policy for the offenses that include lying during an admin or criminal investigation, lying in a police report, lying by admission, or corroborating lie or prohibited use of the carotid restraint. So we investigate all allegations of lying and dishonesty. Lying and dishonesty are never tolerated, and they are termination offenses. Additionally, our department is required by law to provide this information to the district attorney per Brady versus Maryland. And then the carotid and any other neck restraint are specifically prohibited by the use of force policy. The second discipline recommendation is item 23, and it also was to adopt a zero tolerance policy for the offenses that included improper use of city equipment, refusal to take a drug test as ordered by a superior with just cause, sustained finding of racial animus, including hate crimes, and a criminal conviction adversely impairing the employee's ability to perform their duties. So again, the department investigates all allegations of improper use of technology, insubordination, which would be refusal to take the drug test when ordered, any form of discrimination in any criminal act. These investigations are conducted by internal affairs. OPSA does have oversight on these investigations. And then we also conduct criminal investigations involving department employees, and we do submit these cases for prosecution. On the CLETS violation, which is the improper use of city equipment and use of data for personal reasons, or you communicating hate or discriminatory comments, They are also serious matters. They're subject to significant discipline up to and including termination. Refusal to take a drug test is insubordination, and it's an administrative offense that's subject to significant discipline up to and including termination. And then again, a sustained finding of a hate crime or criminal conviction that would impact the employee's ability to do their job are also offenses that are currently subject to discipline up to and including termination. Item 24, this is a recommendation of an automatic suspension without pay for an officer that uses lethal force against an unarmed person. Currently, all officers are afforded due process by law and cannot be suspended without pay during an administrative investigation by law. So therefore, the department cannot adopt this recommendation. Item 25 is to establish a general matrix for progressive discipline to inform peace officers of disciplinary consequences associated with sustained complaints, ensure fair and consistent administration of discipline, and set forth a benchmark for future disciplinary measures. And this is to provide transparency to all officers of the consequences and causes of discipline. And, you know, we're not necessarily against this recommendation. I think we need to really take a better look at it. Discipline is really determined based on the seriousness of the offense, but it's not just a standalone offense. It also has to do with the past history of the officer and other factors that are considered in collaboration with city labor and the city attorney's office. We feel that each investigation is unique. Mitigating factors may apply and should be considered in the issuing of discipline to ensure accountability and mitigate misconduct. Item 26 is the Inspector General, and this is a recommendation that the IG's report to the Commission include a request of, again, access to information pursuant to SB 1421, and that the IG should be independent of supervision. So again, our prior response to this was that this wasn't within SPD's purview and would require further input from city departments and offices. Item 27, changes to the existing policy proposals. The Commission recommended that SACPD should amend its use of force policy to include written language that the carotid restraint holds are expressly prohibited, and the use of such hold will result in disciplinary action. That language has been adopted and is part of our department's use of force policy. Second recommendation was to add language from the post-training learning domain, learning domain 20, and the adoption of this language is currently under consideration for the next policy update. This is the first factor listed in 22 factors that officers must consider. And this is a duplicate recommendation from another portion of the report. Number 28 is that we should establish a policy that for all pedestrian or traffic stops or encounters, a business card with the name, badge number, and 800 number to put forward a complaint will be provided to the person being detained or arrested, and that we also establish a website for a survey for feedback. And so we're currently in the process of implementing this. We've designed the cards, we're ordering them, and then we're also creating an update to our policy, which will provide direction to officers to provide these cards in accordance with that recommendation. And we will also be, as kind of a side note, launching a pilot period of a technology platform, which is going to electronically solicit feedback from crime victims who call for public or for police services. It will provide follow-up information, victim resources, and details about the person's incident, as well as a survey to rate the service they received by SACPD personnel. And we should have that up by the end of summer or by early fall. And then currently, through our existing website, we also have a portal that allows for feedback, both positive and negative, of our employees. And that is currently established on the SACPD website. Number 29, it says to include on the SACPD website command staff officers by name, substation, with a short bio and picture. And so we are currently implementing that. All of our command staff have submitted their biographies, and our administrative staff in the Office of the Chief has collected that information. They're formatting it for consistency, and we'll be publishing them to our website shortly. Miscellaneous again, there's a recommendation to terminate SPD's contract with Lexipol. And so again, not within the purview of SACPD, but City Council did approve a contract in September of 2019 to contract with Lexipol. And it was based on the following reasons. One, it was to support SAC-PD with policy development and management, while adding a web-based training component to ensure that employees understood policy changes and all the applicable legal requirements. It was also approved to help ensure that our policies were current and compliant with state and federal legislative and legal requirements. And then finally, as an alternative to adding additional full-time staff to the professional standards unit to perform those functions. Item number 31 is that the commission should have access to legal counsel independent of the city attorney's office. This is a shared recommendation with the internal working group. And again, this is not applicable to the SPD. It requires further input from other city departments and offices. Item 32, this was in addition to collecting vehicle traffic stop data and sharing the said data on its website. PD should contract with a third party to determine the cause of racial disparities evidenced by most recent data, and should work with experts and community advocates to ensure that vehicle stops are not influenced by racial bias. And then a follow-up recommendation that SAC-PD should continue to analyze vehicle stop data every 3 years. This recommendation is at the discretion of mayor and council. We, as a department, support further analysis. However, vehicle stop data study is of significant cost to the city. And then I'll move on to the mental health ad hoc recommendations. There's the first item, and I won't read the whole thing. It's a large data request. That data request has been filled with the exception of, there's 8 items with the exception of number 8, and we expect to have that item filled fairly shortly. And that is a request for the number of calls for service that the mobile crisis unit responded to over 12 months, and a breakdown of the resolution of those calls. And so that's the only outstanding item in that data request. Some additional recommendations are
Chief Lester, excuse me. I know you're covering a lot. Just on that one, if I might, are the reports public and easily accessible to the public? The actual information here that has already been completed.
This one was actually, it came in 2 ways. It came in originally as a request from the commission, and then it was followed up by a PRA request through a private person. And so that PRA was filled, that request it went through the normal channels, and the information was provided to the individual. And then that information was also provided to the commission. The commission has discussed some of it at the commission meetings, but we don't have, I guess, necessarily like a public process for publishing the information that's requested by the commission.
Well, it's something to talk about. I certainly would love myself and the members of the city council to get a copy of all of this data. I think it's really at the heart of the commission's oversight function and the council's oversight function.
We can definitely provide you the information that's been completed. That's all public, and we can share that.
Yeah, sure, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go.
No, I know this is a long item, and there's a lot here. I'm just trying to kind of get through the recommendations.
You're doing great. Go.
34. This is a recommendation that Sacramento reallocate $5 million annually from the PD budget to fund community-based mental health response programs such as Mental Health First, to work in partnership with OCR, DCR. Again, this is not SAC-PD's item. It will require further input from other city departments and offices. The next recommendation is somewhat similar. It's a $20 million allocation from the SPD budget to establish a grant program for local community-based organizations to provide mental health prevention, early intervention, and treatment. It also is a recommendation to hire trained mental health professionals to to screen calls at dispatch and divert requests for service to community-based mental health response team, and request that the Office of Community Response, or DCR, provide quarterly updates to the commission on its ongoing work to coordinate community efforts and create systemic collaboration with this program. Again, those are not SAC-PD items. It would be for mayor and council to consider, as well as seek input from other offices and departments. 36 is it's the accountability and limiting use of force. And the recommendations we are currently, I'll just go through them and show you which ones we're implementing at this time. SAC-PD must adopt the last resort standard for use of potentially deadly force. I think that we did that today, and that's a lot more clear. And then officers have to be trained and required to request the community-based mental health response team. So to that recommendation, officers receive extensive CIT training, but there's really not a community-based mental health response team available to officers at this time. Not one that can necessarily respond to calls for service. I believe that was the intent of the commission. The next recommendation is the Sacramento Police Department should establish a serious incident review board, a SIRB, not including only department staff, but also mental health professionals, community members, OPSA, and one member of the police commission. And we actually did implement the use of force review board, and we did it in per the recommendation from the Department of Justice, and that was based on the Department of Justice reports that were done in 2020. And then the last item in that is that we have recurring mental health checks for officers. We completely agree with that, and we recognize the importance of mental wellness for our employees. So we're currently looking for funding, including some grant opportunities to provide for recurring mental health checks for officers. Some additional recommendations specify in policy the 3 different levels of use of force. We now have in our policy the 3 levels of force. Another recommendation was that seizures should be treated as a use of force and reported under a level. However, legally, a seizure can actually occur without a use of force or with a force so minimal that it would not rise to the level of a reportable use of force. Therefore, a seizure, meeting this definition, may not be a use of force. And then use of force reporting discretion should be removed, and all use of force should be reported. And SPD policy does require that each use of force should be reported in accordance with specific guidelines and policies per our use of force general order. The next item is 38. There's a long list of statistics that are related to use of force reporting. And we do this 2 ways. The first way is with the implementation of AB 953. We report much of this data to DOJ, who now publishes it on their open data portal. And that portal includes multiple data points that are included here. And then in addition, we are now doing a further analysis. We just published on our transparency website the 2017 to 19 use of force stats. And it's a 21-page document. It includes total calls for service which resulted in arrest, total incidents where force was used, and further, there's an analysis of demographic data of officers, use of force by geographic location, citizen demographics, including race and ethnicity, as well as age group, officer seniority and gender, type of force, resistance use against officers, and then incidents by month, day of week, and time. We also include arrest statistics and known suspects by race and gender, as well as the race and gender of unidentified suspects that are reported by victims or witnesses. And finally, we have a benchmarking with U.S. Census Bureau population estimates on that. 39 additional recommendations to adopt imminent threat language into our use of force policy. Our policy now includes the exact language recommended by the commission specific to imminent threat. Adopt the language that force is, quote, necessary when there's no reasonably effective alternative. We are adopting, just like we had promised on May 10th at the commission meeting, to include the language from AB 392 verbatim in our policy. So while our policy was in compliance with AB 392 prior to that, just due to calls from the community to prevent any further confusion, we're putting the exact language into AB 392. And I know one of the commissioners had called in asking why that was not included in the latest update. We're currently in the process of revising the policy. The update that just came out was a previous one. So we're constantly revising that policy, and it is being worked on right now. The last resort language, we talked about that today. Objectively reasonable force to adopt. This is the language from Learning Domain 20. This language is from our post-Learning Domain. It's under consideration for the next policy update. Currently, there are 22 factors that officers have to consider when using force, and imminent threat to the safety of an officer or another is the #1 factor in that list. And then prohibited use of force. We have a section on the SPD policy for prohibited use of force, as well as additional factors that officers have to consider before using any force. On to number 40, adopt the following language into our use of force policy of retreat, which retreat does not mean tactical positioning, or other de-escalation tactics, we have adopted that exact language into our policy. So we've also adopted the de-escalation language recommended by the Commission into our policy. In addition to the adoption of that language, we developed a standalone de-escalation and a plan response policy, which provides guidelines for interacting with individuals who might be experiencing emotional or mental health crises. And then finally, require that peace officers shall give a warning unless an officer has objectively reasonable grounds to believe that the person is aware of the fact that the officer is a police officer. We actually did not adopt this recommendation because we believe our policy is more restrictive. We require that verbal warnings are required whenever it's feasible and according with case law, not just when there's objectively reasonable grounds to believe that someone is a peace officer. So our policy is more restrictive than the Commission recommendation. Moving on to 41, medical care, requiring officers to render aid as soon as possible. Our use of force policy, as well as the emergency medical aid policy and the City Council policy on use of force, requires officers not only to be trained in first aid, but to render medical aid as soon as it's safe to do so after a deadly force incident, and to immediately notify EMS. On the recommendation regarding drug testing after a use of force, drug testing of officers at this time after a use of force can't be implemented, as this is a contractual issue and it's subject to labor agreements. And so the department is unable to adopt that recommendation. And then use of peace officer instead of police officer or officer through the use of force policy and other policies. We've adopted the change. We're changing police officer in our policies to peace officers. This will be an ongoing process. As new policies come out, this is how they're currently written. As we update policies, that will be changed from police officer to peace officer. And then we'll go back on some of the more stale policies and make those changes as well. Item 42. Recommend adding that the gravity of the suspected activity is an item to consider before initiating, continuing, or terminating a foot pursuit. We agree in concept to the recommendation, but we did not change our policy because we think our existing SACPD policy language is more specific than what was proposed in this recommendation. Our policy currently requires officers assess and evaluate continuously whether the need for apprehension justifies the risk to public safety, the officer, and the fleeing suspect. Further, an officer may pursue suspects only when he or she reasonably believes the suspect has committed an act that would justify a stop, investigative detention, or arrest, and that also officers are required to consider the criminal violation, whether the suspect is identified and can be apprehended later. So we've expanded on, I guess, the term gravity to a much more detailed level in our policy. And then 43, recommending adopting the language, the officer initiating a foot pursuit should always, unless physically unable, activate their body-worn camera. We agree in concept to that recommendation, but we did not change our policy because our policy requires officers to activate their camera as soon as it's practical. The policy specifically provides guidance that if it's not feasible due to a risk the safety of the employer or others, the employee should activate the body-worn camera as soon as possible. Another recommendation was to recommend that if a watch commander authorizes an employee to go out or go in service without a camera, that it will be documented. We require that already, that you have to document if the body-worn camera was not activated, but we have loaner body-worn cameras at all of the stations, and officers therefore are not placed in service without the body-worn camera. And then finally, recommend that when dispatching or when responding to a dispatch call, the officer shall turn on the body-worn camera before approaching the location for services. Our policy is currently written to require officers not only activate their body-worn camera during dispatch calls for service, but it's more specific in that it states that employees shall activate their camera during investigations and enforcement activity, including evidence collection, whether self-initiated or in response to a dispatch call. So we have a broader policy requiring activation more than this recommendation. And then additional recommendations, there was an ethnic studies course that was recommended. And it said for officers that transfer from another police department, require them to take in their first 2 years, and that the requirement for officers that transfer that will be contingent on negotiations with labor. And we support the ethnic studies requirement, but it would require funding and a contractual change to the labor agreements. Another recommendation was to conduct annual surveys of police personnel that include questions about diversity and inclusion and highlight the experience of police of color, women, and issues faced during the application and selection process, including retention concerns, and address issues raised through the planning process. So we recently partnered with the University of San Diego and Sac State to implement a community and an officer survey. The city also surveys employees, although we concur with the recommendation, and we could certainly consider expanding our existing surveys or working with other city departments to implement a survey that would meet this recommendation. And then finally, the last recommendation is that the commission should review and give feedback to the department, mayor, and council before any adoption or updates on SACP general orders, and that the city adopting a policy or process where they agree to review these policies at a public meeting and consider the commission recommendations. Again, that's not applicable to SACP. It would require further input from other city departments and offices. So with that, thank you for your your attention and focus as I went through all of those recommendations, and our team is now available for any questions.
Chief Lester, can you go over everything again one more time, please?
You're fine. Thank you, Mayor. Funny.
I've been preparing that line for the last half hour.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you for a comprehensive report. I think we do have one caller on the item. I think what I'd like to do, though, is turn it over to Chair Guerrero for his response, if that would be appropriate. I know I've got some substantive questions on some of the recommendations and responses, but that and our other colleagues' comments and questions can wait. Let's hear from Chair Guerrero.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg. I appreciate the opportunity, and I just want to say to Deputy Chief Lester, I feel your pain. We obviously wrote these recommendations, and it's taken a lot of work, to come up with these and provide a rationale for it. And so I appreciate you going through them one by one and offering your perspective. I do want to offer first a process suggestion that isn't part of the recommendation, but goes towards what Councilmember Eric Guerra brought up earlier, right? That I think, and Councilmember Ashby, Vice Mayor Ashby, that we need to improve the process. This presentation was not just 2020 recommendation. It included some of the 2018 and some of the 2019 recommendations, which I can understand the confusion because there is some overlap. But it's not, I could clearly tell you that this list was not just 2020 recommendations. So it was neither only 2020, and it also wasn't comprehensive of 2018, 2019, and 2020. So just as a suggestion in terms of improving process, I do believe that at some point we got to get to a process where we number recommendations. That number is used across SACPD and the city so that we know exactly what we're talking about. And also that, while I appreciate that SACPD has been responsive, responses need, verbally, responses need to be in writing because it's not just for the commission to know, but for the public to know. So, when SACPD comes to us and says we've implemented that, the reason, part of the reason why we need it in writing is because sometimes they're implemented verbatim, which is great, thank you. Sometimes they're not implemented, which is fine, we have a disagreement, but sometimes they're implemented, but they're tweaked. And I know of at least one incident in regards to a use of force recommendation where we were told it was implemented. I went back and checked the language. And yes, our language was included, the commission's language was included, but then additional language was included as well, which we believe goes against our original recommendation. And so, I'm walking you through this process just to say that we really need responses in a methodical way that are in writing so everyone is clear on what was done and what was not done. But again, I appreciate the amount of work that goes into this. In terms of, I'm wanting to highlight some of the items that were brought up. I think one of the things I'd like to highlight is that, there were a number of recommendations that have to do with SACPD and the commissions and our relationship together, right? Responsiveness to each other. And, they're including item number 3, 10, and 11, which require, SACPD to do certain things. Their attend commission meetings, attend commission agenda planning meetings, meet to review commission recommendations, present to the commission when we make requests and they're within the scope of the commission, and of course, things that SACPD does. Removing OPSA from being the middle person, all of these go towards removing OPSA from being the middle entity because OPSA is supposed to be independent. So the reason that, we are recommending that the council require, in spite of SACPD saying, well, we do some of these things, is because we believe that we need to establish a baseline of this relationship, right? We need SACPD to be a good, solid partner. That doesn't mean we're going to agree all the time, as I have acknowledged, SACPD has acknowledged, the council has acknowledged, but it establishes a baseline that SACPD has to be present, has to be responsive in order for the relationship to work, in order for us to provide the council the best information possible so that you all make decisions. And, unfortunately, we're at this position because there have been times, for example, when SACPD hasn't been to the meeting. It's only been a couple of times, but we ask, hey, why was SACPD not there? And we're told, well, this is, this is a courtesy. And so then we're kind of, stuck in a hard place because we need them to be there and be responsive. Or when, we ask OPSA, what about this, presentation that we requested? And, it takes us twice as long to get a response because SACPD is not at the table. And OPSA can't respond because OPSA is not going to be the one that does the presentation. It's SACPD. So I wanted to clarify that bucket of information of requiring, these things of SACPD, it's not that they have, not provided these things in some instances, but it's that we need to establish that baseline of the relationship. The next item that I wanted to highlight is, this recommendation that before SACPD adopts a general order, that the commission, gets an opportunity to review. I can give you an example, even from this last week, right? As SACPD, as Deputy Chief Lester just mentioned, the use of force general order was updated. And guess what? Neither I nor the commission was aware. We were not notified through OPSA. We were not notified through SACPD. And so it's a bit frustrating when that's the charge that we've been given by you, the council, to give feedback on programs and policy. And here, a very important policy was updated, but I actually had to hear it from a third interested party stakeholder. And the thing about it is of course, commissioners, do research. We regularly check the general order, the SACPD's page where they have the general orders, but we shouldn't have to. We're volunteers. This is sometimes a half a job or a full job, depending on, on what the commission needs to prepare. And so again, kind of making sure that we have a working relationship. It doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but we need to talk to each other. And so this recommendation really does come from the commission should know, especially, use of force, body-worn cameras, and the list that we provided. We should know when SACPD is, changing some of these. And yes, absolutely, Deputy Chief Lester is correct. There have been a number of instances where there have been cases where, like the use of force, there was a special committee or task force that was put together, and one of the commissioners was part of that effort, and that's great. But again, establishing the baseline, right, to ensure that we work together well, not just one time or two times, but consistently. And so that's why this recommendation has been put forward. The discipline matrix, I'm really glad to hear that Deputy Chief Lester said that the SAC PD is not necessarily opposed to this. We believe that the discipline recommendations and the matrix, the discipline matrix, go hand in hand. You heard that that the SAC PD, in fact, has many of these policies in place, which is great. It's awesome. We're so happy for that. But the issue is that, one of the issues anyway, is that the community doesn't know this. The commission doesn't know this because some of these policies are not made public, right? So we need a discipline matrix for clarity for the community, clarity for peace officers. Peace officers should know if this happens, then this could potentially happen in terms of discipline, right? Equality of treatment of officers, right? That there is no disparity between how we treat officers of color, minorities, women, as opposed to other officers. And then just, the other piece I want to add is that many other jurisdictions have successfully adopted this a discipline matrix, and they've done it with the ability to include flexibility. You can absolutely adopt a discipline matrix with flexibility. Let's see if there's any others that I wanted to highlight. Of course, it's important to highlight the process question, right? That we do want to work, and this is not SAC PD specifically, but with the council. I believe that it's in everyone's best interest that the city adopt a regular process by which once the commission sends you the recommendations, that you hear them out, hear from all of the departments, SAC PD, et cetera. And then finally, consider them, whether you vote them down, vote them to implement them, tweak them and adopt them, whatever it is. We need to establish that process that's very clear to you, to us, to the public. Let's see. And in terms of the discipline, there's a whole group of items that are about, hiring. There were a number of recommendations with hiring. And again, you heard Deputy Chief Lester say, oh, we do that. It's we follow POST. And of course, POST is Peace Officer Standards and Training. And that's wonderful. But guess what? We did a lot of work. The commission did a lot of work because one, the commission didn't know that that SAC PD had these policies. And guess what? If we didn't know, the community didn't know. So one of the things that was not shared is that once we had a conversation with Deputy Chief Lester, and this shows why that's important, right, to do that, and we welcome that. We tweaked our recommendation to acknowledge that many of those policies, in terms of the pre-hiring policies, SAC PD already does that, but we then went on and said, but please post them somehow to make them available to the public. So integrate them into the general orders or somehow put it on your website so that, again, the commission, the public, we all know that, right? Because if the public doesn't, we believe that the more the public has this information, can access this information, the more trust there's going to be. And it's a win-win because, again, the vast majority of these pre-hiring policies and even the discipline policies, if you add a matrix, SAC PD already, as Deputy Chief Lester has said, are already things that they do. So those are the things that I wanted to highlight. As you can see, there's many, many recommendations, and I'm happy to to respond to any questions that the council may have. So I'll stop there.
Wow, there's a lot to digest here. And certainly, I mean, one of the things here is that the police department says pretty clearly that there are a number of these issues that aren't necessarily, that are not applicable to the police department, in that they may not have an opinion one way or the other, but it would be the role of another city department or entity to help implement. For all of those, What we need is a regularized kind of schedule where we can take these up, or at least get specific recommendations now from the city manager and the city attorney on these other items. And then if there's a dispute, which is okay, we live in a democracy where disagreement can sometimes lead to a good result, as we just found an hour or so ago with the use of force, that ultimately we vote on a regularized basis. And that's the process that needs to follow here. I'm not upset about the fact that there are disagreements. I am concerned if we don't use this massive report and break it down, maybe 25% at a time, and bring it forward, say, once a month, so that we can reconcile and or vote on where there are differences. That's what I hope comes out of this. And by the way, the fact that votes would be upcoming gives every incentive for PD, the city attorney, the city manager's office to be OPSA, to be in much closer dialogue with the commission to work it out, because there's nothing better than the commission and the city management, including the police department and the city attorney's office, working it out and then bringing it to us with a joint recommendation. Leave it to the elected officials at your peril, and that's to everybody, as opposed to breaking this down and working it out. So that's what I hope comes out of this, so that we can begin showing progress. And yes, disappointment, happiness on one side or the other, fine. But the commission makes recommendations, we should take them up. Yes, no, or somewhere in between. Council member, I don't know the order, Madam Clerk. I see the members.
So the order is Councilmember Guerra, Vang, Valenzuela, and then Howard has a comment.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it short here. I think you hit the nail on the head of what I was going to recommend, and I was going to give some direction and guidance that the city manager, OPSA, and the commission begin to develop a process to move items forward. And just like the planning director, puts things forward to the planning commission, and then they make themselves to the law and legislation commission. We have a staff report by the time it gets there. And I think we have to make a regularized process. And some items may go to budget, some may go to law and ledge, some might even go to P&PE, to personnel and employment. And I think that, creating that process is going to help us be able to break apart some of these items forward. But so that's the direction I'd like to give there in guidance here. And then also, I do believe we should charge, or the commission should discuss identifying a priority or work plan. So there are a lot of these items, and figuring out which ones are higher on the priority to work through. Some may be easy, low-hanging fruit that can be done quickly, but at least developing that work plan. So I think from this discussion, if there's anything I learned, and I heard Commissioner Guerrero talk about a couple of the priorities, and I agree with some of them. Immediately having a policy where staff is available to respond, that's important. We have to have staff available to answer. The bigger piece, and again, I want to credit Commissioner Graciela Castillo-Cringe here for the dialogue on how do we develop a process that helps us separate those departments. So I think that's the next step that we should undertake. Because I would say that if everything comes to the council, Mr. Mayor, all at once like this, we'll never be able to get through the work that needs to be done with each item.
Yes.
Hey, Mayor, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
So the process that we're talking about here creating, I think is 100% right. I think this is it. This is the beginning part of it. Well, I was working with Councilmember Valenzuela about how we're going to bring forward the 18, 19, and 20 recommendations in its entirety. And we thought it was too much to do all 3 years, so we decided to go with the 21st. And you'll see that the report says it's a receive, file, and provide direction. So on those issues that were covered today that need some more work, we maybe have some disagreements where we need to dial it in a little bit more. Some that require other offices to weigh in, we want to bring those back for a vote. And I think so. We're in the middle of the process right now. The other piece is speaking to staffing of the commission, not only the Police Review Commission, but all of them. I understand that we also have a request for PNPE to take a look at how we can focus the way in which all of our commissions report back to the council. And I know that just happened at the last PNPE. So I'm hopeful that we can work together to figure out how we can resolve some of these issues, not only with staffing, but resources and like a work plan, the same way the auditor, for instance, comes forward to the mayor and council. So yeah, just to respond to the question, this is the beginning of the process.
Well, I think that needs to be more spelled out and particularly like in our council rules as we do in the beginning of the year. So we know how, so the public knows and the council knows and also the commissioners know how we're going to take on each item and where it could move through. There's a clear delineation of which item and where it goes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Valenzuela.
I think Councilmember Vang had her hand up first. So
I'm sorry, Councilmember Vang. You go right ahead.
Yeah, I will try to keep my comment short. I think, Mayor, you and Councilmember Guerra pretty much summed up a little bit what I was going to say as well. So first, I just want to thank Deputy Chief Lester for your presentation. I really appreciate your thorough work and responding back to the commission. So want to say thank you for that. And I think I would echo on making sure that we figure out a process. I think it's really important to figure out how we can streamline this because ideally these responses should be provided to the commission before it actually gets here so that we could see and they can communicate back and forth, whether an item has been implemented, whether there's disagreements, whether it's in process, right? And so it just seems like there is a breakdown in communication. And so I do have some questions just for clarity for me as a new council member. One is, City Manager Chan, thank you so much for sharing that. This is just the beginning because I am wondering, like right now, historically, who staffs the commission?
Well, and historically, it's been OPSA. But there's some challenges from the Police Review Commission about that entity being the staff person. And so we're working on trying to figure out those roles and responsibilities, which is why I mentioned the discussion that was at PNP very recently.
Yeah, because I do know that we will need staff time to support the commission. Given that everyone is volunteer, we need someone to help kind of streamline just the processes and ensure that there's actually a feedback loop in terms of communication, right? That's going to be really critical because some of these commissioners will, be appointed, be reappointed, and there needs to be some kind of systemic processes so that when Chair Guerrero leaves, we know what the timeline is. So that's really important. I would also support Councilmember Guerra's direction to staff on this in particular to ensure that this is streamlined. I also just wanted to know, I noticed that we also didn't have the city attorney's feedback on these items as well. And so I'm curious to know as well, what does our city attorney thinks? And so perhaps in addition to the direction, to Councilmember Guerra's direction, if we can also ensure that when we do this matrix, the city attorney also has their response next to SAC PD as well. And then, while I was listening to the recommendation, reading it, I did just want to share that there were 6 categories that I think that all of these recommendation falls in. And I just wanted to kind of share them out loud because I do think we can get moving on some of these. I don't want 44 recommendations to be sitting somewhere with no implementation. And so it seems like so there's like 6 buckets. One is recommendations not applicable to SAC PD. And so we need to figure out next step. There are some recommendations that SAC PD agrees with that council can move forward on. So I want to make sure that we can tease those out and move forward on those, because if there is an agreement between the commission and SAC PD, which sometimes, we don't see that. If there's an agreement, I would say let's figure out how to move forward on those items. There's the third category recommendation that needs clarity from other departments. I flagged them all in my notes as well. There are recommendations that are already being implemented. I think it's important for the commission to know that as well. That's the fourth one. There's 6 categories. I think we can actually just lay them out. One is that, and then there's the fifth recommendation is that SACPD has disagreement, and that will need further debate, which is fine. And the last one is that recommendations may need further direction regarding bargaining. So these were the 6 kind of like categories. As Chief Lester was going through it, I was flagging them each one. And I think if I can do that during this council meeting, I think we can get a staff to do this and start moving on some of these items. And so I just wanted to put that on record as well. And so appreciate Councilmember Guerra's direction. If we can also add the city attorney's feedback on these items would be great. And last direction is I just want to know what the timeline is on ensuring we have the process in place, because we make a direction and I don't know when the process will be implemented, right? And so if staff can come back with the timeline on when the new process will be implemented so that I have assurance and my commissioners have assurance that this is going to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All similar comments down the line here. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll make some very other similar comments, but some additions as well. I really like the idea of getting into the rhythm that we're describing here, and we are working through quite a backlog, and so it's definitely that sort of overhill hump that we're feeling now of like, whoa, this is a lot. Is just part of, I think, why we need to institutionalize exactly the practices. I don't really want us to get stuck in too much bureaucracy, though. Like I know Councilmember Guerra said, well, oh, maybe it needs to go to law and legend, it needs to go to PPA. Well, sometimes it might not, and so I think there's getting better guidance on that process, which is also part of the commission's recommendations, right? Is establish a process, make it within a certain number of months. Like we can figure out some sort of rhythm similar to what you see in legislative processes elsewhere. I also really liked the format of the item on May 4th. And so I want to agree that not having the city attorney's opinion on some of these items really stood out to me, especially on the items that were being flagged as either bargaining or potential legal issues. I'll note, I think it was recommendation 21, 24, and 44 as specific ones, but in general, I'd be curious if they have flags. I also get the impression from the chair's comments that this is the first time the commission is seeing a written response to their recommendations. And so they might want to respond. Like as was said, there might be recommendations that SACPD is saying, oh, we're already doing that. And the commission might disagree, or times when SACPD is saying, well, we think our policy is stronger. And I'd love to hear the commission's input, because that sort of iterative process, frankly, ideally should be happening at the commission before it even comes to us. I think what we're playing out right now is hopefully the process that can start happening at the commission level in terms of the recommendations they've given us, so that by the time it gets to our level, some of this back and forth has happened in some sort of written way that we can track. And then when it comes to us, we can be like, okay, they said this, they said that, here's the compromise, and now we can move forward. So I think we're sort of figuring this out as we go, but I hope we start to codify and strengthen some of these things. I do want to say that I support bringing these all back for action, potential action and consideration, whether we do it in tranches, like Councilmember Vang said, in terms of agreement. I also think maybe doing them by ad hoc committee could be helpful, because I know there's chairs of those smaller working committees that could potentially come in and work with the chair on giving us additional context and information. So however we do this, that's manageable for staff. I also agree that if there's things in here that SACPD and the commissioner are saying, yeah, let's go, then let's do it next week in terms of timeline, like why not, and get that rolling. But there are a few things that I actually would like to see come back differently. So one specifically on recommendation 30 regarding Lexipol, I actually think that should be a separate discussion. And I'd really like that to come back as a standalone item, because I've got a lot of questions, and I know there's been a lot of court cases and litigation and press on Lexipol that I think we should talk about separately. Similarly to recommendation 25 regarding discipline, I think that's a conversation we should have publicly as best we can, right? And talk about the process right now for deciding discipline, and how maybe a matrix makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense, but either way, I think that would help the community understand the process that SACPD and the city takes when there's questions. And I know we're often bound up by binding arbitration about what we can say about what's going on in terms of discipline. So we won't be able to talk about any active cases or past cases, but we could at least break it down and say, this is generally the process we undertake, and have that conversation together. And then the final thing I think should come back separately is regarding the Inspector General, because we have one now. His name's Dwight White, and he's been hired by the city. And I think it would be really great to bring him in to talk about his role and talk about what he's doing in the context of the commission's recos, and really have a dialogue between him and the city attorney and the commission about what we might want to change about his role, or what we can't change because of different legal ramifications or restrictions that we have on data we can share. So those three, I think, should be done separately, if that's okay, or maybe just as separate notice items in some way, because I think they warrant that level of discussion. And obviously recommendation 39, we just adopted. Yay, go us. Recommendation 34 and 35 are budget questions. So I don't know if those really need to come back or if that can just be referred to the Budget and Audit Committee. So, but I do really think that let's get moving and start solidifying this process. So City Manager, I mean, by when do you think? I mean, we've asked this obliquely, but I'd actually love to give you space to answer. How quickly can you bring back some of these recommendations given this process, just so we have an idea of timing and what to expect?
Well, so I have a question first. And that is, are we talking about the 20 recommendations, or are you talking about the process?
I'm talking about the 20 recommendations that we just heard. I think process moving forward is a separate question, but the recommendations that the 44 that we just heard, how quickly can we start turning those around into potential action items?
And the way that it would come back is similar to the May 4th, where we have the matrix on the the city, SPD.
Yeah, with an additional option for the commission, maybe a chart at the end for them to provide comments now that they're seeing the police department's response.
So one more question. It's, do you want to have all the outstanding ones come back together, or you want to have them come out in those categories that Councilmember Vang talked about?
I'm happy to support Councilmember Vang's breakdown. I think it would make sense. And then maybe we could bring on Chair Guerrero, some of your subcommittee chairs, so that they can help maybe answer questions that might arise.
Okay. Well, I'm hard pressed to figure out how quickly they can come back without really understanding, getting all the other departments to come weigh in the same we did on May 4th. So can I provide that as a report back to this council? Once I work with the police department and city attorneys and HR, who were the main entities who weighed in on May 4th, to have them take a look at what's outstanding, give us a reasonable timeline of when they can get back in those categories, and then I will do a report back to the city council.
Okay. Can we say like no later than the end of July?
Well, July, we're on break here, so there's lots of people who, including the council. Okay. I won't hold that. We will shoot to come back as soon as practical.
Okay, I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to your updates. Thank you, City Manager.
Yep. Thank you, Council Member.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Ashby.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm feeling a little disjointed about this whole meeting, because while we're covering great subject matter and I'm happy to have voted on the last item, I feel like this process is very messy, and I hear my colleagues really struggling with that process, and I hear Chair Guerrero basically begging us for a cleaner process, and having hung in there with us for a couple of years now. And that's frustrating to me, because I feel like this commission is the commission that no one is claiming from the city side of the house. Like, who is helping them get their recommendations to us? Mostly I hear about them from the police department, and the police department is really just responding to the requests or recommendations that the commission is making. But it has always been my understanding that OPSA would oversee this committee or commission. And now we have the IG, as Councilmember Valenzuela and Councilmember Vang have both pointed out. And I think we need to better understand how the IG and OPSA are interplaying with this commission, and how Chair Guerrero and future chairs of this commission can assert their recommendations back to this council. City Manager Chan, PMP did not take up this item. PMP took up the item of overseeing annual reviews to charter officers. Mayor, I am in anticipation of a letter from the mayor requesting that PMPE review commissions and committee reports prior to them coming to the council, because the mayor has indicated to me that request is going to be made. My guess is he was waiting to get an answer from me on the last request he made, which he just received after PMPE took a vote. So I would guess that the mayor is probably going to ask PMP to take that up at our next meeting, but he hasn't quite yet. We will. And obviously it needs to be heard by the PMPE committee before I say that they will agree, but I believe that there will be support there to accept his recommendation once I am in receipt of it. But we don't have it yet. But it is clear to me that
my apologies, Mayor Pro Tem. You're correct.
That's okay. That's
It's
okay.
fine.
I know that.
I would never type a letter while chairing the meeting, but I would think about what I might type.
I was choosing my words carefully. I'm anticipating it's coming, but I think it's very clear that is necessary, because we really need to follow up on all of these committees and commissions. I would tell you, I think, the Disability Advisory Committee has reached out to me in the past too to say, hey, we have these recommendations. We really want to see them get to the council. So I think having PMP serve as a clearinghouse is a really great idea. But in the meantime, we may be in need of a closed session around duties and responsibilities of the new IG and the head of OPSA to identify how those responsibilities interplay with what our expectations are currently in oversight over this commission, because it is not fair to ask SAC PD to both respond and sit in the position of being the ones who are always presenting to us. And I think DC Lester has been gracious, and I appreciate Chair Guerrero thanking her for that, but it's not the role. It's not the role, as Councilmember Valenzuela just said. So we really need to clean that up as soon as possible.
So I'd like to make a comment about this. First of all, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm really appreciative of your willingness to sort of expand the scope of the P&PE committee to take on some of these functions. I'm not going to talk about Measure A here at the City Council meeting. I make light of that now. And hey, voters spoke loud and clear, and we ain't going back there. But I do think that this is it is a problem with this system. And I think we need to double and triple our organization to be able to be more effective here. And because it shouldn't be this hard. Let me tell you the way I understand the division of labor here, because I think it's important to say. The Inspector General, which is a new position, his only job, I believe, is to independently investigate live cases of officer-involved shootings, of serious bodily injury by a police officer suffered by a resident, of sexual assault allegations. And that's his job, live cases, because we have not had that. We did not have that under the prior OPSA director, and there was not clear direction from the city council. And the idea, and I'm very clear about this, and worked it out with the city attorney, have worked it out, to say that we want Dwight's recommendations on any given case, including findings and recommendations for discipline, to be made public to the commission and to the full city council and to the city at the same time as the city manager makes his recommendation as to whether or not discipline in a particular case was warranted. Pretty serious stuff. And that's why I think the Inspector General is a great advance for us. And by the way, I know that there's a lot of pushback, but that's the intent when I announced it. It's the intent as we've discussed it publicly. And it's what we are going to do. That's his job. Letitia Watson and the Office of Public Safety Accountability is technically and in reality managing the Inspector General, but is also the interface between the community and the police and fire departments to do all kinds of things, including raising significant questions about policy, about any individual incidents, and to be our eyes and ears and our liaison. and the community's liaison to the police and fire departments. The commission, and again, there are those who want the commission to be different, but the commission does not have independent investigatory authority, but it is doing exactly what we asked them to do. And that is to make policy recommendations on a whole host of issues relating to our police department, and to bring those recommendations forward to the public, to seek public input, to interface with the community, and to bring those recommendations to City Council. And where we have fallen collectively is that there are too many cooks in the kitchen that are tweaking, compromising, objecting to the commission's recommendations. And disagreement, as I said a moment ago, is absolutely fine. The police department, city manager, city attorney says, this is a problem, you should say it. You're protecting the city's interests and you're also stating your opinion. That's what we want you to do. But it should be teed up. Any differences on a regularized basis, in either the way Councilmember Vang suggested, or break this report up, these 49 recommendations, in any way you want. And once a month, this should come to the City Council for us to adjudicate any areas where you have not come to agreement, because that's our job as policymakers. End of story. Simplify it, and get into a regularized process, and then live with the result. And by the way, just as with the use of force, when the council exercises its prerogative, the police department and the commission, by definition, will work more closely together, as they should, to find the right middle ground, or middle one side or middle the other side, whatever. And that isn't happening now. All the formalities are being met, but you're really not working together to help us ensure that the community's got a strong voice, that we're respecting our police department and our police management, and that we are forging a new path together. And that's what we want to see. And you got to help us, please, management, simply with the process, just to make sure that we can weigh in on disputes.
You know, Mayor, I think that having clarity on roles and responsibilities is really important. And, you know, the fact is that the OPSA has historically, quote unquote, staffed the commission, but that doesn't mean that, you know, the police department and any other subject matter expert doesn't attend these meetings as well. So I don't want to give the impression that we will just.
It's not about the formality. It's not that all the T's are being crossed and the I's are being dotted. That's not what's happening. Look what happened with the use of force. Mm-hmm. The commission, indirectly, but in a real way, got together with the police department. You came forward and said, this is what we want. Okay. A lot of drama in between. I get it, but that's okay. Because what a signal that is to the community. This commission and the police department in the city of Sacramento, progressive city, came together and moved forward. I think that's a pretty cool outcome. But it wouldn't happen if we're not setting up a process that puts the pressure on one way or the other to actually resolve some of these things, with us being the ultimate adjudicators.
Mayor.
Yeah, Katie, go.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I mean, I don't think this messiness is like a systems failure, just for my 2 cents. I think this is the first time that we've really operationalized the commission in this way, and that we need to ask these questions and figure this out, and that this is kind of part of that like beautiful uncomfortable, democratic, public, collaborative process. And I kind of like the way it's going back and forth. And I appreciate that staff is asking us for guidance on how to do this, because we don't normally do this. And I personally think that we're setting ourselves up for something that's better, and that's making us open to changes as we learn things and as things evolve in the community personally. So I get that the messiness is frustrating for everyone, and I'm sure for staff as well, and for the commissioners as well, because it's the first time we're trying to trudge through this. But I'm hopeful that if we keep trudging, we'll develop that system, and that's just part of it. I don't think it's anything wrong with our structure. I think it's just we got to figure this out, and this is part of what makes our jobs cool.
Well, I'm not bringing back Measure 8. Don't worry. Okay. All good. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is just growing pains. But growing pains are only meaningful if we then, tighten it up here in the right way. And so let's do that, please. Okay? We got 2 callers on the line.
May I have my caller, please? I have just one caller, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
May we have the caller, please? Welcome to the meeting. You have 2 minutes to address the council.
Hello, my name is Norma Nelson. I'm chair of the Criminal Justice Committee for the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County. I think that for the most part, I agree with most of the comments that have been made by the council members, and it's been a really refreshing dialogue. I'd like to also thank you all for the vote on adopting the new use of force policy. I'm looking forward to seeing the City Council resolution and the implementation plan on that. It's been refreshing to see a written report presented by Sacramento Police Department. It was really thorough, and while I don't agree with everything in it, it would have been wonderful for the community to have heard the presentation. And so all of the discussion that you all have been having about process and more community engagement and transparency relative to exactly what's going on with SAC PD, the commission, and whatnot, and building towards a more collaborative relationship is all I have to echo the comments that have been made by Chair Guerrero and council members Ashby and Guerrero, as well as Valenzuela and Bang, regarding the process, and specifically Councilmember Ashby had mentioned about the staff report being not quite adequate in the previous agenda item. And it would have been wonderful to have had more information in the staff report on this item as well, to better provide the City Council with some guidance. But you all are asking all of the right questions, and I commend all of you for that. The breakdown into the recommendations is, in a written status report on a regular basis is a great idea. Mayor, I commend you for that.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Will you make your final comment, please?
Okay. My final comment would be to bring the city manager to bring back an implementation plan by no later than September 30th of this year.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think there's been a lot of good direction given to the city manager and city attorney and ops on this, and we will talk about this offline and come forward with that specific process with the timelines. It's all laid out for us here. So thank you all very much. And Chair Guerrero, thank you. I hope you see today as a mini breakthrough on a couple of fronts, and a lot more work to do. Appreciate it. And thank you, Chief Lester, for all your hard work in preparing and presenting this report today. Okay, members. That's that for now. We have a closed session, and then council is supposed to begin at 5 o'clock. City manager and city attorney, is the closed session essential this week, or could it be put off for a week?
I believe you have a performance evaluation in closed session.
Of what?
A performance evaluation.
Who of? I'm sorry.
The city auditor.
City auditor.
Okay. And we have one item that should be quick, but then we were going to leave the time for the city auditor evaluation.
Okay, I think this is going to require a little bit more time, and I thought we had P&PE that was sort of going to take the lead here in.
Mayor, you may recall that at our last performance review, there was an indication that we would need to do 2 additional reviews before switching to PMPE. You may remember that you reached
Okay.
out.
I do.
But Mayor, that being said, I do think it's okay to put this one off for a week or 2. I think he will be fine.
Mr. Oseguera, nothing at all negative or personal in any way. I just think we're at 4:35. We've got a 5 o'clock meeting and potentially a long evening. And so without objection, I think we are going to move for a week or 2. And let's talk about the best time to do it. And then we will take a break now. And then we will reconvene City Council at 5 o'clock. All right? Nothing else?
Well, Mayor, we did have a closed session item there, so we do need to adjourn a closed session, but it's a very quick item.
So what is it, and can it wait, please?
We'll just make it wait. I don't think we have something that's a decision. If it is, I'll contact the council. And
okay, we appreciate it. I think the council, may have a long evening, and I think have 20 minutes for all of us is probably a good thing if it's not absolutely essential. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.